No, I did not upload the wrong video. Instead, I had to open up the shutter again, trying to find that friction zone that was messing up the movement of the second curtain. Yeah, kind of led me to taking the shutter apart. Because I initially only got the shutter crate out, I removed the light baffle just to see if there's any difference, and funny enough there wasn't. So the friction was not on these light shields, light baffle material, whatever it is, and that meant that the friction was somewhere inside the shutter itself. And there are many possible options. This is one option, so the actual spring-loaded shaft has friction against the casing, and the other option would have been the main drum, which you probably cannot see. So the main drum having friction on the main shaft, which was kind of out of the question, because before getting everything together, I did spin the drum over the shaft quite a number of times, and it was turning very smoothly. So taking the shutter apart revealed the fact that this upper bush, this one, was kind of rough. So I repolished the shaft, I repolished the inside of the little roller, and now they seem to be working fine. Of course, I will only be able to see if I was right or not after putting everything back together. If I was right, the shutter should be working fine with less tension on the rollers, on the springs. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. The camera is otherwise in its previous state, so I didn't take anything apart from this area of the camera. I'll have to take out the latch because otherwise it's very difficult to get the shutter back. So the spring goes there and the latch goes out, and that is pretty much it. I'm now ready to put it back together. We'll see how that goes. Well, my attempt didn't turn out exactly how I hoped it would. It did improve a bit after all the polishing or all the repolishing, but the second curtain was still kind of hanging. So sometimes you really need to know when to quit. And that's what I did. I decided to swap the whole shutter from my Zorki 6, and yep, that's what I did. Right now I have a different shutter inside the camera that works as it's supposed to work with a lot less tension. It's still not totally adjusted, but I'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so this is where I am right now. This is the other shutter, and what I found was that when turning the second curtain, there is a bit of a roughness to it. I cannot figure it out. I really don't understand what is the cause. My belief is that it's still somewhere here inside. I mean, not necessarily inside the rollers, but something related to the rollers. I will transform it into a side project. Since I did replace the curtains, it would be a shame to go unused. Besides, I need a shutter to put back in my Zorki, which has some other issues, so it's pretty much work in progress. I also got this little plate with the two contacts back in place. I adjusted the contacts a bit, and I would like to briefly talk about the very basic checks when something like this is concerned. So I have my multimeter. I'll set it to continuity, and what I have to check, this is the little piece from my camera. It is missing one of these plastic sleeves at the end. So the idea is that the ends, so these two ends, are beneath the spring plate. Now, interestingly, the spring plate doesn't seem to be conductive. Let me see how I can. Alright, so when things are conductive, the multimeter will beep. Now, if I touch with both probes on this spring plate, nothing happens, which is kind of weird. It's probably the paint or something, because this should be steel, so steel is conductive, right? If I touch on the base plate, it beeps. Alright, if I touch this contact, this one, which is for the old style flash bulbs, and the base plate, nothing happens. If I touch this one, nothing happens. Why? Okay, so this was in the wrong position. Right now it beeps because the pin on this little wheel, this is the pin, comes in contact with this part of the assembly. So in essence, right now it shorts ground to the positive, which will go to the flash port. In this position, you must not have a contact between these two, between these and these. So everything is okay, and of course between these two. So the only continuity that you could measure is between this part and this part. All right. Now the next step would be to actually reconnect the top of the wires to the top plate, because I unsoldered them. Before I do that, I should reconnect these wires. Let me see which one is longer. They seem to be the same length, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I will connect these here after resoldering the other ends to the top plate, for the simple reason that the upper parts, or this part of the wires, in this part each wire is bent differently, so one will go easier. So this one should go here and the other one should go there. Now since this one, now let's do it a different way. So this one will go to this port, which is the X, so it's the electronic flash, and that means that I will need to see which of the two wires is that one. So one probe on the end of the wire, one probe here, nothing. So this is the one that I'm looking for, and this will be connected to this part. Of course, the final check will be with a flash to make sure that it actually works in real life. Come on. All right. And I will recheck just to make sure I'm not missing anything. So this point goes not here, but here. Okay. So this one is the flash thing, and I will do what I would have done at the very beginning. I'll get a little mark on it. All right. Next, the shutter adjustment sequence I will describe in a bit. I still need to get the stuff on this shaft, and I still need to get the back door, and I still need to get these. So these will be first. These are the bits from the rewind shaft. Now in this case, unlike my own Zorki 6, the rewind shaft is friction fit. So basically you have two parts that are friction fit, but still they need to rotate one inside the other. So I will use some lubricant, some of this moly grease, for the simple reason that if not, the rewind motion will feel harsh. Alright, and I think this one goes like no, it goes the other way around. Or is it? No, it's not. Okay, so it goes slots down. This part of the cylinder is full, the other part of the cylinder has some slots, so it creates bits that push inwards, and this one should go from the bottom of the camera up like this. Okay, and now I will wipe the excess off. All right. Oh, look at that. Wow, isn't that interesting? I didn't know. But yeah, that makes sense. That's the easiest way to do it. So there are actually some sleeves. Okay, so there are some sleeves that go over the posts of the flash sink connectors. All right, yeah, that's a lot easier. So I'll just get the sleeves over the posts. All right, next. This one goes here. Now, if the shutter is uncocked, like it's now, then the little speed dial should look like this. So all holes are to the right of the camera and no holes to the left. If the shutter is cocked, you will have these three, actually four, 1, 2, 3, 4, but these three holes will be somewhere around here, and these two will be here. So this pin will actually be here. The pin is aligned with this. So but I'm not really sure if it will be aligned with this prong when the prong is here. We'll see in a moment. It should be. I will use the disc from my camera, so there are no problems, since the shaft is from my shutter, the screw is from my shutter, and apparently they don't match, so you can't cross fit them. All right. this one goes here. It's now set to 1/30th, and the little pin goes on top. Actually, it's not a pin, it's like a little cap. Now this is the cap from this camera. And this is the cap from mine, which I painted. So they obviously don't match, since one has a screw and one is just threaded. But I have another one that I could steal it from. Let's see. Yep, this one is the correct shape. Alright, so I'll just put this aside. Yeah, this is the Soviet way, changing things along until you get all messed up. Okay, and this is the final piece of the puzzle. It should be kind of like that. Alright, and now in theory we are ready to replace the top plate, because everything else will now be adjusted from either below the shutter speeds or from the front, meaning the rangefinder. Everything else has been replaced here, so we are good to go. One thing I would like to recheck, the light baffle, because this is the last chance I can adjust the position. Alright, so this one goes here. This one goes on the other one. All right. Something like this. And now another fun part begins. This is the first one that you need to get in. It goes like this, and this fork must engage with the little screw of the rangefinder adjustment, which is now loose. So you gotta get it in. And without seeing much, you have to kind of get it in the correct position. When you have it, and I don't, that little lens should move up and down, or inwards and outwards. Like this. Now, just to make sure that you don't lose that position. Oh, I forgot something. Damn it. I forgot the back door. This one needs to go in first because there is that upper pin that you no longer have access to after you get the top plate on. So this is the upper pin, this is the lower pin, this is the fourth screw of this assembly, and the little thing that pretty much has no purpose, no real purpose. This one is the screw that goes here. This one is the screw that goes here. So off it goes again. The easiest way to put the door back is to simply put it in place and close it on the left side. So now it should be aligned. Next, check to see that you are aligned with the hole in the in the body. And this pin should go down. Yeah, usually cameras are precision tools that should be handled with extreme care. Yeah, not really for the Soviet ones. Sometimes you just need a bigger hammer. Alright, so now this pin is flush, this one is flush. I also tested the bottom plate, it fits. So this little piece of crap that is totally pointless. In theory, I think it should have it should kind of be on top of the pin in such a way that should the pin move, it would stop against this little plate. But in practice, the pin is outside of the plate. I can't pull the plate anymore towards the right of the camera because it will simply fall off. Anyhow, there is no chance whatsoever that this pin gets out by mistake. Okay, back to what I was doing. So this one goes, come on. The idea is that you need to be prepared for lots and lots of mishaps and lots of trials and errors that can take many hours, depending on how even how lucky you are. Sometimes everything goes smoothly, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, back to this one. Alright, and to get this in position, I mean to make sure that it won't go anywhere, I will quickly replace this screw. And also this little protective cover, and it once in position won't allow for the little selector to move randomly. Now this diopter adjuster is kind of loose. Well, it doesn't mean it will move by mistake, but it's also kind of rough because you have that little cylinder with the lens inside this part that moves in and out. Obviously, we have already established that I can't use any kind of lubricant on that part because the excess lubricant will touch the prism. And you also have this lever that kind of rubs against this plate and the top plate, and it just feels, it feels rough. Anyhow, there should also be this part of the flash cold shoe. Alright, and now the fun begins. So this spring has a longer leg and a shorter leg. The longer leg goes inside and will rest against this screw. So that one goes inside, screw goes next. Okay. Then you have this gear that must go here, so inside the spring, and the lower teeth will need to engage the teeth here, and there it goes. And now for the tricky part. On the winding lever you have this little pole and this little spring. Now the spring must be like that, and it must engage with this little slot. There is a slot on the side of the pole. Now you need to keep this somehow like this when you get the winding lever on top, and this round hole, the bigger one, needs to engage this little leg, the leg of the spring, like this, and turn it around, and kind of sit everything down. Something like this. And at this point everything is super wobbly. Next you need to get this part on top. Now the center of the part will go in between the gear and the shaft, and it has two larger holes and a lot of smaller ones. Pretty much you need to align these three holes with these three holes, so it should go like this. So we have 1, 2, 3 holes for the screws. I only have 2 screws here and a third one here. This one, this bigger hole in my camera is also a small one, so it's not this big, it's smaller. Actually it's kind of like this one, and it fits over this little pin in the winding lever. and the larger one is for the spring. Now we need to get the spring, so this end of the spring somehow needs to, like this, get through that hole, and now by shifting it left and right a bit, it sits correctly. You will feel it going down. And the 3 screws pretty much made the 2 surfaces, so this protective cover and the winding lever. Come on. Okay. After getting one in place, the pieces will stay aligned and the rest of the screws will be much easier to put back. Okay, then you have this locking nut that is left threaded. And right now the camera should work. Otherwise, you'll need to take it apart again. Okay, this washer goes dents up, and now it went flying. Okay, so this is the bulb position. It doesn't matter if you put this dial back with the shuttlecock or not, it should always align with the selected shutter speed. So in my case this is B. And I think I will have to use the dial from my camera as well. Yep. So bulb, 30th, 60th, 125, 250, and 500. Okay. Well, that was unexpected. Now that ends the reassembly phase. I still need to put some things back, and I will put them now so I know I'm done. You have this one. Okay. Washer, dial, and screw. Okay. This trim, not yet, because that's the adjuster screw for the horizontal of the rangefinder. I will get the lens mount back, and I will measure the working distance, and I will check focus with the lens that it came with. In the case of my camera, it focused perfectly fine with its lens. I did not measure the working distance, but I also checked it with a good known lens and it was okay, which was kind of weird because The working distance must be 28.8 millimeters and the acceptable error is 0.03 millimeters, which is insanely small. That's 30 microns. Now, I'm pretty sure the Soviets were unable to die cast a body shell to that kind of precision. And yet the camera focuses. Either it was pure luck, or maybe they really did manage to get everything within that spec. Alright. And I also have this one. That goes here. Bottom plate not yet. And this one goes here. Okay. Next time I'll go through the adjustment steps rather briefly because there's not much to show. I'll just do some explaining and then I will put back the leatherette, stick some film in it and take it for a spin.